You know, if you were expecting me to do a rant after this game, then unfortunately that is not going to be the case. And if you were expecting me to be super angry after this resort, then that also unfortunately is not going to be the case because I've seen this happen many times. Like, I've been a fan of the San Jose Earthquakes since 2013, and for the last couple of years, and especially these last couple of years, this has happened almost every single time, and at least happened once every single year. Now, do I think that this is something that I should just be happy with? No. Do I think there should be some changes to this team? Yes. Do I think that that change means that we need to have a new ownership and a new GM? Absolutely yes. But you know what's the sad part about this? Nothing's gonna change. Like, we this situation and this timeline that the Quakes are in is literally the one that reminds me of last year when they lost 7-1 to the Sounders on the road and lost 6-1 against the Timbers at home, where everybody was calling for Jesse Furinelli heads. Some even demand Almeida to be fired, and also a lot of Quakes fans were demanding a new ownership and was pretty much bringing the Fishers out banner, which I know in the next game, when they do play against the Galaxy in the Cali Clasico, I expect there's going to be a lot of that. And I definitely condemn them to do that because, you know, as much as I know at the end of the day it's clear that this ownership is not going to change and it seems like they don't really care, I always condemn where fans are going to keep trying and want to keep trying to protest and just eventually kind of pressure this ownership to basically decide to change, and also this front office decide to change. But at the end of the day, you know, as I said, really nothing is going to change with this team. And I think that's the biggest issue with this team. It's not just because of the players on this team is not good enough to be a playoff contender, and it's not because of the fact that the coaching of this team is not good enough to be a playoff contender, but it's just mainly because of the front office and the ownership clearly do not care about this team and clearly decide to not be ambitious and kind of stuck in this MLS 1.0 mindset, even though that mindset has been passed through from this league for about a couple of years now. That this is the reason why we're still seeing these resorts where the Quakes just get absolutely blown out of the door whenever they play an away game, at least once every single year. Now, this game actually was delayed 24th minute because of lightning. And by the way, this game, not only the fact that you know how there's a phrase when your team is getting blown out and it feels like just a one of those long games where it's really tough to watch. Well, this basically was the definition of that because, you know, this game there was actually even a lightning delay right between this game and that. The game actually didn't finish until around 10:45 p.m. Eastern time. But the game did start with a 24-minute lightning delay, and by the time this game kicked off, it was around 8:02 p.m. Eastern time. DK, of course, back in the starting 11 for Orlando City for the first time since his loan move, and actually he did appear for this Orlando City team in the last game off the bench. Originally, when I wrote this, I thought this was the first time he actually made an appearance for Orlando City ever since his loan move to Barnsley, but I later found out that he actually came off the bench in that last game against TFC. But still, the first part is true. This is the first time he is starting for Orlando City, and he definitely would have a big impact in this game. And you could even say after this game, that demand from a lot of those European team that wants to get Daryl DK away from Orlando City, yeah, that demand and also that transfer fee just went up maybe about $5 or $6 million after this game. Now, in the 5th minute, straight away there was a penalty that was given to Orlando City after Benji Michel was brought down by Florian Youngworth, and I'll talk about a little bit later how the Quakes actually had a chance to get a penalty and avoid the shutout, and how that probably should have been a penalty too. But this one that was called a penalty for Orlando City, yeah, it was pretty clear that Youngworth clearly mistimed this challenge on Benji Michel, and this front three that Orlando City was putting was causing nightmares to this Quakes defense. Like, this Quakes defense just they basically decided to not only not show up, but almost just gave this front three a career day and just have emperors of space to try trying to go forward and try to take their opportunity to score a goal. And this in this instant, it was just pretty clear that not only it was bad defending from the Quakes, but Youngworth missed time his challenge, gave the penalty to Orlando City, which Nani was able to put away to give Orlando City a 1-0 lead. Then a minute later, Benji Michel almost made it 2-0 when he puts a shot wide from close range, and I thought this could be a long night for the Quakes, and it turns out it is going to be a long night for the Quakes, and especially for the back line. Because in the 11th minute, Mark Sinkowski did deny Pereira from short range. They did show former Chelsea winger Willian in the stands attending this game, so cue the MLS rumor of how Willian is potentially going to be a player that's going to go to Orlando City, and he might be the successor of Nani. But then, a couple of minutes after they show that, Benji Michel would get on the score sheet as he scored from Chris Mueller. I wrote terrible defending from the Quakes. It's not going to be the first time that I get to say that, as Orlando City were up 2-0 up to that point. Now, in the 28th minute, the stream kind of suffered a bit of a blackout for a second because, it's Twitter. That's always going to happen where there's going to be at least part of the game where it just randomly decided to switch off before turning back on, because how my feelings is toward Twitter, and how I will always say Twitter is literally the worst broadcast out of any broadcast I watch for an MLS game. But then in the 31st minute, it would be 3-0 in favor of Orlando City, and it's Daryl Dike who scored his first goal for Orlando City ever since the loan move, as he scored from Nani. And this all started because of just a WTF turnover from the Quakes in the midfield that allowed Orlando City to basically counterattack, and unsurprisingly, they took advantage of that and took advantage of a bad mistake that the Quakes had in the midfield. And yeah, it was 3-0 in favor of Orlando City. I would not blame any Quakes fan decide to turn off the TV after this game, because after this, I just thought, this game is pretty much done and finished. And by the way, in the second half, and also because there was like a lightning delay that was happening in this game, I was also gonna watch the Giants take on the Angels, and the lightning delay actually, when it was finally over, and when the game restarted around 9:35 p.m. Eastern time, that was also around the same time when the Giants were taking on the Angels. So I was kind of also multitasking and watching both of those games, but you probably know which one I was actually keeping a closer eye on between both of these games. But as I said, the game did stop because of a lightning delay. The game, of course, eventually did restart at 9:35 p.m. Eastern time, and again, I won't blame any Quakes fan decide to not tune into this game anymore, because this game is over. There's no way the Quakes are going to come back from a 3-0 deficit. DK almost made it 4-0, but missed wide from close range in the 43rd minute. Before Brendan Austin did deny Chillfest from 20 yards out. Austin was relatively quiet in this game. He didn't really have to make a lot of saves, but that's all because of the fact that the Quakes literally they were, once they were down 3-0 in this game, it's almost like they just don't want to be there anymore. They want to just get on the plane, fly back to San Jose, and hopefully look forward to the next game against the Galaxy. Now, in the second half, and also as we head to halftime with Orlando City winning 3-0, and by the way, I was actually wondering how long exactly the halftime break is going to be, because they only play 5 minutes after the lightning delay is over. So I was thinking maybe it's going to be a short break, where maybe it's just going to be like 10 minutes before both of these teams gets back in the second half, and it turns out it was actually the normal 15 minutes before the second half started between the halftime break. But in the second half, it was pretty much the same, and Orlando City actually made it 4-0 very quickly, as DK would score to make it 4-0 in favor of Orlando City. And I also wrote, add bad set piece defending to the latest bad defending that the Quakes has had. The Quakes pretty much did a hat trick in terms of bad defending. In fact, actually not a hat trick, but maybe a quadruple in terms of bad defending. You want to see bad defending where they concede a penalty? Yep, we saw it in this game. You want to see them having a bad defending where guys are just kind of standing there and letting player go through on goal? Yep, it happened in this game. You want to see bad defending where basically the Quakes gave the ball away in the midfield and get punished by that? Yep, you got that too. And then finally, if you want to see bad defending of them not doing well in terms of the set piece, yeah, we saw that one too. I mean, again, just pretty much just sums up where, I don't want to just say the defending was a real issue in this game. There was pretty much tons of issue, and I would even say everything was wrong with the Quakes, where they just never showed up in this game. And as I said later on, it seems like they just want to get out of Orlando and fly back to San Jose as quick as possible. Then 8 minutes later, DK did try to go for a hat trick, but he missed wide. And of course, I also wrote what I just said a couple of times, where the Quakes, they just don't look like they want to be there anymore. They want to get out of the stadium, just get on the plane and fly back to San Jose as quick as possible. Then in the 69th minute, this is where I talked about earlier, where I feel like the Quakes should have got a penalty. And, if there's any point of this game that where I kind of got pissed off, was this moment. So, VAR did not give a penalty to the Quakes, despite the fact that Antonio Carlos clearly handball in the box. Like, when you see the replay of this, I just honestly don't know how that's not a penalty. Like, that, you can clearly see when that ball was crossing from Salinas, Antonio Carlos not only intentionally handballed that one, but you can even see it in all different angle where his arm was clearly in an outstretched position. And the fact that that's not giving a handball, I mean, I was just absolutely baffled and kind of angry at that moment. Now, you would think, well, I shouldn't be angry at that moment because, we're down 4-0, and even if the Quakes does score a penalty on that, it's still just going to make it a 4-1 result. But what I'm angry about that is that this is just something that I'm still angry about VAR in terms of some of the refereeing in this league, where there's just times where I'm still so frustrated that we're still seeing these blatant error that is not correct. And I understand that, it's not perfect. These referees are always not going to be perfect, and we're not going to expect in a world where every call is going to be made correct. But it just also feel like when you look at some of the refereeing, and especially ever since VAR was introduced in MLS, there has just been so many blown calls, and at times blown call that can actually determine a result of the game. And I know, as I mentioned, how this blown call really didn't matter at the end of the game, but imagine if it did. Like, imagine if this was a 1-0 game in favor of Orlando City, or maybe even a 0-0 game that was in favor of Orlando City. That's where the talking point, of course, is going to be. And anytime when the talking point is a blown call that happened in a game and the referee is in the center of the attention of a game, yeah, that's when you know that's probably a game that you don't want to see happen. And again, at the end of the day, we do not want to see referee be the center of the attention. Now, just a couple of minutes after that blown call, Akindele did try to make it 5-0, but he blazed it high from close range. Before Jackson Yeo probably came the closest to get the score sheet for the Quakes. Well, actually, the closest that the Quakes came was that blown call that was not giving a penalty for them. But this was probably the closest one, where Jackson Yeo did hit a shot that was blocked, but it was almost redirected back in. I really hope there's going to be some offer for Jackson Yeo in Europe, because he doesn't deserve to be on this team. It just feels like he is clearly wasting his time during his career with the Quakes, and I really hope eventually there's going to be another team, even if there's another team in MLS, potentially pick him up, because I feel so bad for his career to be just being wasted, and his potential being wasted to be on this Quakes team right now. But then 3 minutes later, Orlando eventually make it 3-0. It's Benji Michel that scored from Akindele and Pereira to make it 5-0 in favor of Orlando. Actually, did I say 3-0? What I meant was 5-0 in favor of Orlando City. But it was almost 6-0 just 4 minutes later, and really the last kick of the game, when Pereira almost made it 6-0, but unfortunately struck the post. But either way, it ends in a 5-0 result for Orlando City. And the shots in this game, even though it was relatively close with 17 shots compared to 11 that the Quakes had, the shots on goal pretty much tells the story. 8 shots on goal compared to just 1 that the Quakes had in this game. 7 shots off target for the 4 that the Quakes had, 2 shots that was blocked for the 6 that the Quakes had, and even though the Quakes had the better possession with 57% possession compared to 43% possession, this, no doubt, is the worst game that the Quakes have played this season. And, I've said that during this rough patch that the Quakes are in right now, which now that winless run is now up to 6 games, I thought some of the games that they lost back in May, even though they were losses where they suffered like maybe 1-0 or maybe a 3-1 loss against SKC and a 2-0 loss against the Timbers. When I look at those games, I didn't think those are really losses where I would say that, yeah, this looks like a very bad loss. And I would say that those losses that they took, they actually played well. I mean, they were kind of unlucky in terms of some of their chances, and especially in the last 2 games, I feel like the Quakes were very unlucky to not get at least a win out of the last 2 games with the way that it seems like the opposition goalkeeper just pretty much gone supernova against them and just saving anything in front of goal. But this one was just not like that. This was just a game where simply they did not show up both in the offense and in the defensive department. And when you have that happen, it's no wonder why the opposition would eventually have a big game. And also, it's a combination of the opposition decided to have their best game of the year. And there's no doubt that this is by far the best game that Orlando City has in this one. And they would definitely be carrying a lot of momentum heading into that Friday game against Inter Miami. And also, if you're an Inter Miami fan, yeah, you are probably going to be very nervous about this game, especially with the way that they're going to be a little bit short-handed with those 2 red cards that they got against DC United. But overall, to just focus on back on this game, and just to kind of sums up what I think about the Quakes getting absolutely destroyed again. I don't feel anything. I don't feel angry whatsoever. I mean, I know a lot of Quakes fans are very angry about this resort, and a lot of Quakes fans are demanding changes. I don't feel angry because of the fact that I've seen this happen before. But the only anger that I just feel with this team is just it just feels like nothing is ever going to change. Like, I know the ownership and the front office, they see this and they said, well, you can be angry all you want, but we're just going to just stick with the same people, because as long as we're making money, that of course is going to actually work out for us. And that, again, unless if there's a change, unless if there's going to be a new GM, and unless if there's going to be some personnel changes and somebody's going to get fired after this game, we're going to see more of this from the Quakes. And it's just the sad part about the Quakes, and it's also kind of the reason why I really started to not take the Quakes very seriously anymore, because of these numerous bad results that is going on with this team. And anytime when I don't take serious on a team that I support and dearly love, something have definitely gone wrong with that team, and that there's definitely some serious changes that need to, of course, be made. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this game? And, like I said, I am going to be attending that Cali Classico on Saturday. I'm not going to be one of the person that's going to bring out the Jesse Fornelli out or John Fisher out kind of banner, but I will condemn and give my full support to people that, of course, do that, because, again, even though I know this ownership potentially is not going to change, I still condemn the fact that fans are trying and they are trying their best to really pressure this front office, and really hope that maybe one day we are going to be seeing an ownership change. And, earlier this morning it was announced that the Dynamo did had an ownership change, and, if the Dynamo can get an ownership change, and if you can start seeing these MLS 1.0 kind of mindset teams that we still have are starting to get some ownership change, then it does give me belief that maybe the Quakes are going to eventually go through an ownership change, and that eventually maybe John Fisher and also a lot of these high-ranked officials on this team will understand that you simply just cannot care, just don't care about this team and just run this team to the ground, because at the end of the day, you're going to see it in the resort, where I can guarantee you, if this does continue, PayPal Park is going to be empty for most of the game. Like, you see those games that the Quakes have been playing at home where it's on limited capacity. Yeah, that's going to be almost the same amount of crowd when full capacity is going to happen. And if that is going to be the case, and also if people stop buying the merchandise for the Quakes, that maybe is something that could really hurt the team, and that, you know, the match day revenue could go down for this team, and maybe that's when that will maybe pressure the ownership to do something, or maybe there might be a change in terms of that. But either way, until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.